I think the biggest thing that I take away are these transferable skills where it's like you would think like touring the country and kind of hustling and making it happen in that way is like specific to music, but it's really not. Like that's going to help us in the future with our gym. It has already, like as we kind of bootstrapped a gym and kind of figured that whole thing out. And then even with our kids, just like kind of that idea of like just one step at a time. Like all you have control of is your next step. And that was all the music ever was too. It's just like, all right, what's my next step? What's my next step? Because I never, like, it took me probably 5 years of doing music full time to actually admit that I was a musician. So I was like, well, I'm doing music until I have to get a real job. And then like maybe 5 years later, I was just like, okay, I guess I'm a musician now. I can actually own that. So yeah, it's been fun to see how those skills kind of move into different areas as well.
Hello, and welcome to Pursuing Health. I'm Dr. Julie Fouché, family physician and former CrossFit Games athlete. Here, I bring you information and inspiration to help bridge the gap between fitness and medicine and support your journey toward your healthiest self. Thank you so much for joining me. Now let's get started with this week's episode. So guys, this week I sit down with Jonny and Libby Diaz. Jonny is a contemporary Christian singer and songwriter who has a number of chart-topping albums, including More Beautiful You, which you may have heard. And Libby turned her passion for fitness into a business with their gym, Fit Factory Nashville. I had met Jonny several years ago at an airport, and more recently I had the chance to work out at their gym, and they've both become good friends. In this conversation, we chat about how they turned their hobbies into thriving careers, how they navigate the challenges of owning their own businesses, and how they create balance in their lives as parents and busy entrepreneurs. So I hope you enjoy getting to know them as much as I have. Before we dive into the episode, we do want to make it clear that this podcast is for general information only, it does not provide medical advice. We recommend that you seek assistance from your personal physician for any health conditions or concerns. So with that, let's get started with the episode. Welcome to Pursuing Health. I'm really excited to be here with Libby and Jonny Diaz in their beautiful home, getting ready for Christmas with the Christmas tree. So thank you for having me, and I'm really excited to chat.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I thought, first, I just want to say that I'm so grateful that we have gotten to know you guys and how we met, which is kind of a cool story that Jonny and I randomly ran into each other on an airplane one day, like
That's
years
awesome.
ago. Do you remember how long ago that was?
My goodness. I don't know, probably 6 or
Whoa.
7.
It was a long time ago.
I think you were still in a boot, so that's just
Oh,
dated.
yeah. So it's 5 years ago. That was probably when
Because that was how I recognized you.
I bet you that was right before I started the podcast, because I was in Nashville. I was in Cookeville doing a seminar, and I recorded my very first episode with Rich Froning while I had the boot on. And I bet that's probably when it was.
Oh.
You started with Rich Froning,
Yeah.
and now you're with us. This has gone downhill.
Uphill. Come on. Uphill.
Depends on how you look at it.
But yeah, and then I guess we just sort of like kind of kept in touch through social media over the years. And then when we moved to Nashville a few months ago, you guys have been so welcoming and helping us kind of show us around and take care of us. So I'm just excited to be here and
For sure.
excited to have you guys on the podcast finally.
Yeah, I remember you were being like kind of cryptic about like we're moving somewhere, and you weren't even saying it. And I was like, I'd send you a message, be like, Nashville's pretty nice, and then eventually you're like, actually, we are moving to Nashville. So we were excited for sure.
Yeah, it's great. Have you guys lived here? How long have you guys lived here?
It's coming up. Is it coming up on 13 years?
13
Oh,
years.
wow.
Yeah,
No, that can't be right.
it's got to be, because it's just under. How long have we been married? Almost 13 years.
So we moved after we got married. So
Yeah.
12 years.
12 years.
There we go.
Wow.
Yep, we know what we're doing.
Yeah, it's a long time.
You really do forget. You get to that point where you're like, how long has it been?
Right.
So
Like what year is it? What?
It's been a while.
I don't even know how old I'm turning this year half the time. Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
It starts to blend together.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so before you moved to Nashville, let's talk about just your backgrounds, like individually and then together, how you met. So fitness, music, anything else that you were into in growing up? Who
You
wants
want
to
to go
start?
first?
Oh, I'll let you lead the way.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm kind of a weird combination. I loved sports. Grew up in a total sports family, specifically baseball. So I had 3 older brothers, and they all played beyond high school. 2 of them played professionally. 1 of them played in the major leagues for almost a decade.
Wow.
So like baseball was just really big in my family, and so somewhere along the line, probably like eighth or ninth grade, I also developed this passion for music. I found my dad's old guitar and I started kind of teaching myself slowly how to play it. I still play all my chords incorrectly because I learned from like dots on a chart kind of thing.
Oh,
So,
cool.
I had both of these passions going on all through high school, and I was excelling at baseball. Got a scholarship offer to go to Florida State and play ball. But all the while was just kind of like, I love this music thing. I wonder if there's anything there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had this big, like out of high school, I was trying to decide, do I go to Florida State and try and be a professional baseball player? Or do I go to Belmont here in Nashville and pursue music?
Mm-hmm.
Some kind of music industry job, whether it was an artist or something. And honestly, the decision really came down to like finances because I had this full ride at Florida State and I had, very little at Belmont. And so I was like, well, I'm going to go to Florida State and pursue baseball. And it was funny because I look back and I really think that this was kind of a God thing in my story, just the way he worked, where I thought going to Florida State meant pursuing baseball, but it was exactly where I needed to be to pursue music. Because if I had come to Belmont, really, I would have been a very, a small fish in a big pond kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And at Florida State, it was kind of unique that I was actually pursuing this music thing. And so it went from like my freshman year, I played ball, then I ended up hanging that up, and then started pursuing music the next 3 years. And God used like, all the people around me and just the encouragement and the campus ministries, all those things, just to kind of encourage me to keep pursuing this music thing. And it set me up to where I was able to actually launch into it right out of college. But the cool thing, kind of going back into the fitness thing, is I did get that year at Florida State where we got to work with some elite trainers, some of the best in the country. Florida State's a highly ranked D1 program. So I got to like do those kind of workouts with those kind of trainers and really kept falling in love with the fitness side of things as well, which is great because then we have some common ground because she doesn't do music at all.
Nope.
Yeah.
But
So-
you are very
no.
into fitness.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So that's kind of my story.
Yeah. So for me, I grew up in Florida and played soccer. And that was kind of what took up most of my time. And I was pursuing to play in college. So I went to Florida State as well and played soccer there for 4 years. And that's kind of how we sort of came together. I say sort of because there's more to that. And even before going to college and having those, trainers that we had access to who are amazing, in high school, I went to, goodness, I can't even remember, some school in Tampa, and we trained speed training and it was the first time I'd ever done functional fitness. Like they were doing something crazy back then, and I would drive 50 minutes to go do this. And I was like 16 years old or something like that. I can't even believe my parents let me drive that far. So I would do this training and I just kind of fell in love with moving well, because that's what they taught there, like how to move your body and how to run properly, how to sprint. And it just kind of, the mechanics of things is what I really fell in love with. And I continued to play soccer again through college and got more access to people that were talking about moving well and correctly. And that was kind of my journey in. I guess I'll kind of spin into kind of like how we met.
Yeah, I want to hear the
like
story. The
led
more to the
into
story.
it a little bit. We did have some common, what is it called? We had some mutual friends because we both played sports at Florida State. But it really comes down to the Facebook. Facebook brought us together.
She said the Facebook because
that's
it
what it
actually was
was.
the Facebook.
There was the
back then.
most people don't even
was
probably remember that.
Only for college students. You had to have a .edu
Yes.
email address.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they didn't even have messaging back then. So Johnny sent me a random AOL message, like AOL Instant
Oh
Messenger.
yeah, I remember that.
And from there, then we got married, basically.
We didn't skip any steps there. We just got married.
Totally.
Okay, well, let's hear about the message.
It was really romantic. I think I
You
said,
won. Nailed it.
Who's this? Because somehow she was on my buddy list and I didn't know how.
Yeah. No. But
I think I'd put her on.
But
there,
you had
I
met
thought-
in person before this.
We had not.
No.
We had a
No.
bunch of mutual friends, and I think I was like snooping because I was like, oh, she's cute, and like put her on my buddy list, and then like months and months later,
Yeah,
totally
it was a
forgot about
while.
it, and all of a sudden she pops up, and I was like, who's this? And that was what won her over. So,
That
Wow.
one.
who this?
It is. So then we started chatting and hanging out eventually. Eventually we met, obviously.
Yeah, we did.
But that came after. So we were, I guess, online dating before it was a thing.
Before it was
You
even
know?
a thing.
We
yeah.
didn't really claim
You did
it.
functional fitness before it was cool. We
Oh.
did
Yeah.
online dating before it was cool.
Goodness.
We're
So ahead of the
hipsters.
curve.
Yeah.
Next? I don't know.
That's amazing.
So that's a really short story.
So then you guys are both at college, and then tell me about, I mean, now obviously, Jonny, you're doing music, you have a gym, you guys are doing what seems like kind of turning your passions into your work, but obviously I'm sure it was not a very straight path. So can you talk about what led you there? Like after college, how did you find direction or know the ways that you wanted to go?
Ooh, I at the time, like starting the gym, it started as an outdoor boot camp. I really didn't know I was pursuing a passion, to be honest with you, at the time. I just kind of thought it was a fun idea, and like I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up, and so I just kind of had this heart to connect with women and like, do something with some of the struggles, the body image things that we think about a lot. And I'm like, okay, well, we can work out together and encourage each other and build relationship that way. And that was really like the base of it. But it wasn't really until I got going that I was like, wow, this is really was my passion. So looking back on it, I see it as I was pursuing something I was really passionate about, but at the time it didn't register as a passion. I don't know if that makes sense, but like thinking through it, like at the time I didn't really think like I'm going for my passion on this. I was just like, I want friends.
Yeah, this is something that I want to do. Yeah.
I want to hang out with people, and I like this aspect of it. And so that was kind of like the baseline of it for the gym stuff.
Yeah.
And was that did you do that once you moved to Nashville, or what happened like right after college, or when did you guys move?
Yeah. So after college, he had already graduated and was pursuing music. And then I graduated a little bit early since I met him. I'm like, oh, let's just get married. So I sped up my college stuff. And goodness, we got married in March. Came to Nashville in October for like a small period of time, and then we moved officially in January. And when we moved here, Jonny was going and crushing it, and you're just like putting in the time, right?
Yeah. I was on the road all the time.
He was on the road all the time, and I was here. I was working at State Farm. Great job. Like I really liked it. I enjoyed it, but I realized that I worked Monday through Friday, and my husband was home Tuesday through Wednesday. And I was like, okay, this is not working. So from there, I stopped working there so I could have more like retail hours at a different job. And then my brother down in Florida was starting a gym, and I was like, this is awesome. Sounds so cool. Like, should I move to Florida and do that too? I'm like, no, we can't leave Nashville right now. What if I just start something really small outside and just working out with like one friend? And that's what we did. We just started working out at the park, and two things kind of happened. She saw the results that she wanted, and we just became really good friends, seeing each other regularly. I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I want to do more of this. So it was kind of like a very organic movement in that direction.
Yeah, it reminds me of like how back in the day, how a lot of CrossFit gyms started with just people in their garage, like friends working out, and then it turns into, okay, now we have too many people, we have to go open a building or a place.
Need more space.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's amazing. At what point did you realize that, okay, this is something I want to turn into like a business, or actually go get a bigger space?
Well, coming from Florida, I learned quickly that when you work outside in Nashville, eventually it gets cold. I didn't realize
now when it snowed for the first time
totally.
this year.
And so I was like, okay, well, does this just like stop at this period of time? And a really wonderful woman at a gymnastics place close by gave me a corner of her space to work out in the winter. And then we moved back outside. And so I just was able to keep going. And then the next winter came around, we're like, oh no, here it is again. What do we do? And we got a better space, a temporary lease to be inside. And during that time, things just started to kind of grow a little bit more. Again, it was organically. We kind of, one of the sayings that we have is like building a fit community, one friend at a time. It was just like, come on in, hang out with us, be friends with me. Oh, you want to stay? And like, let's keep hanging out. And then it kind of got to a point where Jonny came in and was like, okay, this is a little bit more than a hobby for you. There's people here. Are any of them paying you? I'm like, I don't know. I don't care.
Like, we're just having fun.
None of them.
And
Yeah.
it kind of came to the point where it's like either we were going to have to leave our space that we had, which we were really blessed to have a very cool space for like a year and a half. I was able to stay in this inside space for a good period of time. And once Jonny got on board, it was kind of like either we really go for this or it was just a fun time. And I guess a little bit before we even had to make that decision, we kind of were thinking about that, and we made a big decision, like personally, to move out of our house and rent it out and live somewhere else for a period of time to kind of build up some capital to put towards potentially starting something.
So you were committing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were. That was
Well, and she's kind of brushing over that, but like we moved into a shack pretty much for.
No, it was not. It was awesome. It was just smaller.
Tiny little house for 4 years, and it was a blessing because it like just took so much pressure off when we were starting out. Those things where you're wondering, are we going to make it through this? It just took a lot of pressure off and allowed us to kind of focus on what was more important to us than having a nice house was.
It was a nice house.
A big house, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Or I don't know.
It was just.
You want to move back into it?
We talked about it not too long ago. Tiny housing.
Yeah.
Tiny.
No.
That's true. Tiny houses are all the rage right now.
Yeah, totally.
Wow. So then what about for you, Jonny, when you were in college, you're kind of pursuing music at that point. When did you know that it was something that you wanted to focus on even after college and make more of a career?
So I think I'm a little different than a typical musician. This might be a stereotype, and I apologize if it is, but I think I'm pretty left-brained, and kind of the way I'm wired is to think through things very logically. And so I realized after my freshman year of playing baseball, I realized logically if I was going to pursue music, I needed to start now because I had 3 more years where I didn't have to earn a living necessarily. I had, some financial aid, I had some parent aid, things like that, some Kool-Aid,
All the things.
all the things. And so I just realized, like, if I start now, I might have a shot. If I wait until I graduate, I got no shot because instantly I need to like earn a living at it. And so that was like a really big blessing because I started, my sophomore year and put out a CD and was shocked that people actually wanted to buy it. And I could kind of hustle around on weekends and beg places to let me play. And so I had 3 years to actually kind of develop a following and learn how to tour and learn how to create and sell merchandise and do those things to where when I actually did graduate, I was really able to go into it full time. And so that was kind of like how I got going. And honestly, I think it's fascinating because there's so many industries where like hustle and grit are like really like common and rewarded, and you see that in people and you're like, yeah, way to go, of course you're gonna do well at this. For some reason the music industry just seemed different. Like it seemed like a lot of people that were just like, well, I'm hoping to get discovered. I'm hoping good luck will come my way. And I was just wired very different where I was just like, no, I'm gonna go pound down the doors.
Yeah,
like
do
I'm gonna
everything I can,
I'm gonna beg places to let me play. I'm gonna sell CDs out of my backpack at school. I'm gonna do all these things. And I did, and I'm grateful because like you just learn a lot of lessons that way too, that transfer into other things. They transfer to the gym now. So I definitely credit my ability to do music less for like a musical ability, and more just like God laying it on my heart to like, hey, let's get out there and like let's hustle and make this happen. And so I did that for 3 years. Without a record label, without anything, just kind of independently touring the Southeast and making it happen. And then right after we got married, I was able to sign a record deal, and that kind of took it from just the Southeast to like I was able to tour all over the country. I was getting to actually be on tours as an opening act and getting songs on the radio and stuff like that. So that was fun. Like kind of felt like the boundaries were opened at that point a little bit for music. And so somewhere along the line, a few years into being married, I knew Libby was like craving training. I knew like we had heard of this thing called CrossFit, and I knew she wanted to do it, but it was expensive and all this stuff. So I did the worst idea. I gifted her a membership for both of us to a CrossFit gym. I
Tears
was like,
everywhere.
yeah, she was so grateful, and I was like, what did I just do? But I actually fell in love because I was like, oh man, this is like what I used to do when I was playing ball. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like an athlete again.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly.
Instead, because I had done the typical, like, I'm gonna go elliptical while I watch a movie,
Right.
Yeah.
and then I'll do some
Yeah,
bench press.
Totally. That
And
was
it's
me
just
in
it was so
college.
unmotivating. And so all of a sudden we found that, and it was very motivating, and we started to kind of get that bug together of like, oh yeah, I really like this training like an athlete thing. And so yeah, and then she kind of took the story from where it grew into us having our own space.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I was just going back to thinking like, man, how did I sell my dad on this guy that I wanted to marry? He wanted to be a musician. It all worked out.
Hey, it all
but
worked out.
Goodness. Poor parents.
Oh,
Oh
goodness.
man.
And I think it's cool too. I think you had posted recently, Jonny, when your new album just came out, about just the different phases throughout the years and how you thought eventually you're going to have to like kind of hang this up and get a quote unquote real job, like, 9 to 5, and just how grateful you are to be able to keep doing it, which I think is amazing. And how you guys have also navigated how that looks differently throughout your lives over the last, I don't know what you said, 13 years. And as you've had different stages of life and now kids, and how it's been able to still be really important and a big part of your lives, but has looked different from time to time.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that I take away are these transferable skills where it's like you would think like touring the country and kind of hustling and making it happen in that way is like specific to music, but it's really not. Like that's gonna help us in the future with our gym. It has already, like as we kind of bootstrapped a gym and kind of figured that whole thing out, and then even with our kids, just like kind of that idea of like just one step at a time. Like all you have control of is your next step, and that was all the music ever was too. It's just like, all right, what's my next step? What's my next step? Because I never, like, it took me probably 5 years of doing music full time to actually admit that I was a musician. I was always like, well, I'm doing music until I have to get a real job. And then like maybe 5 years later, I was just like, okay, I guess I'm a musician now. I can actually own that. So yeah, it's been fun to see how those skills kind of move into different areas as well.
What's been maybe the most rewarding thing and then the most challenging thing about making things that you were really passionate about into your careers? That's a big question, I realize.
Yeah.
Way to lay it on thick. Okay.
Can I go?
Yeah, you go.
I think the most, as your eyes were still back like you were thinking, so I'll go.
Please do.
I think the most rewarding thing for me is that sense that a little bit we're controlling our destiny, which is weird because we're both people of faith, and so we also know that like ultimately we're not, like we, like we believe that God is in control of our future, but we're also feel called to work like it's kind of like up to us in a sense, and then rest at night knowing it's not. And so, but I think that the biggest reward for us is just feeling like we're in control to do what it is we feel called to do. And we hope, now we have 3 kids, and like I hope really to instill that in them, that they don't have to fit into some system. They don't have to, graduate high school, go to college, start a job, then hopefully climb up a ladder, and all of a sudden they turn 40 and they're like, what am I doing? So I hope to instill in them that they're in control too. Like you create your destiny here.
What was your question again?
Like, what's been most rewarding for you about kind of turning your passion or your hobby into a career?
That's right. So my mind was going to
Or the most challenging thing, sorry.
Oh, that's right. There was 2 sides to that coin. The most rewarding part has been the people that we've been able to meet and get to know and be a part of their lives and then be a part of our lives. I've met some of the most wonderful people through this process that I never would have come in contact with. And like part of the heart in like building a fit community one friend at a time, again, that's kind of like what I had thought way back when I started, was just like how to love people well and just so they can be seen when they like come in our doors. And just to see the people that have been there for, I can't believe it. You were outside with me. Like, I can't believe you're still here. That's such an amazing thing. And I'm so grateful that they've been a part of the story. So it's just been the wonderful people we've met along the way has been one of the most, I don't know if that's rewarding though. It's been one of the most wonderful things for me. And the most challenging, was that most difficult things about it? Working together is a big challenge. I don't know if that's the most
What?
I don't know if that's the most difficult, but since he's a musician, which is his own business to some degree, and then we do the gym, it's just us, and so the difficult part is that it's all consuming, and to make sure to create space for that not to be a part of the conversation all the time. And that's hard to do. I don't know if we figured that out, but we are at least mindful of it sometimes. There's a lot of difficult things.
Mine is in line with that. The challenge for me is when you have a non-traditional kind of 9-to-5 job, you're never fully on, and that means you're never fully off. And so just finding that balance of being able to shut it off and actually turn it off is really hard. Even like, for instance, this Sunday there was we have speakers at the gym that play music, and there was this awful buzz just and I was like, well, I gotta try and figure this out before our Monday morning 5 a.m. class.
Right.
And so all afternoon on Sunday, rather than doing normal Sunday things, I'm up there at our gym trying to figure out where this buzz is. I never did figure it out, but it went away. Anyway, so that's just an example where it's like you're never fully on, and you're also never fully off, and so just finding the balance there.
Yeah. What are some ways that have been helpful for you guys to find that balance, or to make sure that you maybe protect like time for yourselves that doesn't involve those things?
We have had some of the most amazing people come work alongside of us. And we are so grateful for them, and our team is amazing. And having people that are better than us in a lot of ways come alongside us and continue to make the gym a great place. That's kind of my answer. I don't know. Do you agree?
It's been really intentional over the last 2 years to kind of work ourselves out of the job. And we still have plenty of roles there, but at this point, I would say our roles are like we could actually pass them to somebody if we wanted. Where you go back in time 3-4 years, like if you took us out of the equation, the whole thing crumbles, right? Now it doesn't crumble. I think it actually thrives without us, and that's a cool spot to be. But it took a lot of like intentionality, a lot of finding the right people, making sure the right systems are in place, all those things. And so that's a huge blessing for me. Also, just realizing in a normal year, you take COVID out of the equation. I'm traveling almost every weekend. So I play, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then I'm home on Monday. And I would come home and it's Monday and I feel like I got to work. And so suddenly I'm like, man, it's been like 6 weeks since I actually kind of like took a weekend, And so for me, just having that conversation with her where it's like, hey, Tuesdays, like, I have some guys and they want to golf and they can, like, can I have the day kind of thing, has been really helpful.
That's good. That's true. Especially when you have, like you said, like the days are kind of mixed up, or you have the weekend where you're working, or especially two things. It's not like if you were just doing music, maybe you could take some days during the week, but you've got the gym. So there's always something to do.
Exactly.
What have been some of the things that have helped you guys through? I'm sure, obviously, it's not all a straight path, or it's not all kind of perfect. It hasn't happened all perfectly to get to this point. But what have been
of this?
Yeah, a lot
I'm
of
doing
ups
up and downs.
What have been some of the things that have been most helpful for you in navigating that path or getting through the challenges?
Prayer, and having a firm foundation in the Lord has been like really foundational, obviously, to to get us through some really difficult times. There's more to that, I'm sure. I don't know. What would you say, Jonny?
Yeah, I think, I'll broaden it and I'll say having somewhere to go with that. For us, we're people of faith. So like the first place we go to is God, but beyond that, whether you're a person of faith, just having people you can go to.
Yeah.
And that's been something I've had to be really intentional about, just surrounding myself with guys that I can actually go to and say, hey, this is really hard. I need help here. Because I don't know if you know this, guys don't like to admit that we need help.
A lot of girls don't either.
I was going to say, I think that's universal.
Yeah, it's people maybe.
Yeah, it's really hard to ask for help.
Yeah, so just having somewhere to go, right? Like for us, it starts with the Lord, but then we have to be surrounded by people. And that for us also involves the team that she talked about. We've got such a great team that just kind of helps us process and navigate and make those decisions. And also we started working with a mentor collectively probably 2 years ago.
I don't know. I can't keep track of time anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can probably even say who it is. It's Logan Gelbrick. He runs Deuce Gym out in California. And
awesome.
for the last couple of years, he's kind of guided us. We initially started working with him for professional stuff, but he's got this way of like digging in personally.
Oh, yeah, it's all related, right?
It is.
Yeah. Why are you making us cry? You're supposed to be our business mentor.
Yeah.
So he's just asked us some tough questions that without that probing and without that guidance, I think it would have been easy to avoid those questions. So things of like, where do we really want to be in 5 years? Where do we really, what's the path to get there and all those things. So, those are all to me just places to go with those tough times.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's amazing. How did you end up finding him or deciding that that's something you wanted to do?
Ooh. Good old, Instagram, like rabbit trail, right?
Stalking.
Yeah, rabbit hole. So I think I was pregnant at the time, or just had our second child. We have 3. And so I was looking into just postpartum fitness and different things. And I came across BirthFit organization and really started diving into that and kind of figuring out what that, and like I was like, where did this come from? And then it led me to Deuce. So I started reading his blog.
Okay.
And I read up to date, and then I was like, oh, there's like years and years of this. So I just kept going back and reading more and more, and just the language and how he wrote was just different and really interesting. And I did BirthFit and kind of went through that process too, and heard more about like Deuce and what it was and kind of what they were creating with coaches development. I'm like, this is awesome. This is really cool. So I asked Jonny, I was like, hey, Jonny, there's this seminar that this guy is holding in, I don't know, Wisconsin.
Madison,
I was like, oh yeah. And I'm like, hey, do you want to go? And he's like, what's it about? I'm like, I have no idea.
I just know.
But I think it'll be great. And he's like, but what are they going to talk about? I'm like, I really don't know.
It's kind of expensive and I don't know what we're going to talk about.
But can we go?
Sounds like a
we
great
need to work
idea.
on your sales.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
But we went.
Yeah, and I think the CrossFit Games were in Madison that year, and it was like right around, so we were going to be able to see a little bit. That was kind of my, to get you there. That was the hope. And really, it has put us on a completely different trajectory than we would have been on if we didn't go to that summit.
For sure, yeah.
So that's kind of how we got connected with him. It was a random search, and then fell in love with the blog, went to his seminar, and he did personal coaching. And so we got on board with that and have been doing that for a few years now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And just illustrating how impactful it can be to have someone like a mentor, someone like external that's like looking at what's going on and asking you those hard questions. Because I feel like a lot of times when you're caught up in like you're living like in this thing that you're doing, it's hard to see the big picture or ask those questions of yourself.
Yeah, it gave us that lens to kind of look at things differently. And he's been a really big blessing to us in the business side and the personal side, to be honest with you. There's been a lot of things we've changed just in our home kind of through conversations with him, which has just been really cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So what does fitness look like for you guys now? Like I know last week, Danny and I went to a class that Jonny was teaching, but
oh, that's right. I wasn't there for it. I was so bummed to miss it.
But like, what does it look like now? Because obviously you have 3 kids, you have a lot going on. Like, how helped you personally, but also as a family?
Okay, I guess I'll go. Fitness has been honestly really challenging for me ever since we started the gym. We started the gym and I was 6 months pregnant with our first, so that alone was just a lot
That's
of
a
life.
lot at once.
And now we have 3 children, so just feeling that pull to, just feeling the pull of both directions. Rearing children
Real quick,
in the gym.
she taught classes and like the day that our child was born and demoed handstand push-ups
No.
the day our child was born.
It's okay.
Little weight vest action.
Yeah.
No, yeah,
No
for
problem.
sure. Oh man. What was the question? What was I talking about?
What does fitness look like?
Oh, okay. So fitness for me has been like starting the gym. You kind of hear like when you start a gym, you do it because you like working out, and then all of a sudden you start a gym and you never work out anymore because you're working. And I really found that to be true. And then also putting in having a child and starting motherhood and rearing a child and having another kid, and now we have 3. So it's been really honestly tough for me as far as the working out side of things.
Yeah.
But I just recently feel like I have the mental capacity to put working out more consistently on my plate. I did work out through that time, but it wasn't as consistent as I'd hope it to be. So I just kind of needed some time and probably a little bit more sleep to kind of get there. I feel like I'm not answering the question
No,
right.
that's
Was that
perfect.
right? There was something else to that I was maybe going to speak into. But having the gym has allowed me to be a mother and kind of step away a little bit more too, which I'm grateful for it.
I'd say for me, the volume has come down, and that's okay. I'm
Older.
Yes. I'm 37.
Feel it. Are you?
And I think that my goal has shifted a little. When we opened the gym, I was 31. I was training 6 days a week, and it was all about performance. And now I'm just hoping to feel good longer, right? And so I do more ROM wadding than I used to, which is good. I probably do, honestly, more ROM wads per week than I do workouts per week, which is very different than what I used to do, right? And so I'm probably averaging 3, maybe 4 a week right now, and I'm okay with that. The biggest thing that I have kind of needed to work on, I'm on day 30 right now of Whole30.
Oh, nice.
Well,
Big
I can't say whole.
Paleo
Paleo 30.
Details.
I had some bacon and I had some tequila with lime.
Okay.
So it's
that's
not,
reasonable.
I haven't been off the wagon.
No, you've done great.
So I'm on day 30 of that. But for me, I feel like if I could dial in this balance of like eating well, doing 3 to 4 a week, and also working on mobility very consistently, I'd be like a very healthy, happy 37-year-old that actually feels good getting out of bed. And I've got most of those pieces put together right now.
That's great. And I love that you brought in like the ROM WOD and the nutrition, because it is about the balance, right? Like if you're working out 6 days a week, but you're also not eating well and you're not sleeping and not taking care of yourself, then maybe that's not actually going to have a great impact on you, especially long term.
I hate it though. Like I
It's the harder
still
things.
believe I
know,
can
it's
out-train a bad diet.
so much more
It
fun
just
that
doesn't
way, right?
doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think that like I've just realized too how incredible our bodies really are. And so like especially during this 30 days that I've been eating really clean, it's just been really apparent to me like, man, our bodies are awesome. We just kind of mess it up a lot by putting bad fuel in and not like, just so I've been kind of re-inspired to like make sure I'm viewing it as fuel, and even with all the COVID stuff, just realizing how incredible our bodies are if we can just make sure we maintain a level of fitness and maintain a proper fueling and a proper movement and all those things, like how incredible and durable our bodies are really designed to be.
So true. And so resilient. Like it is amazing to me still how poorly we can treat our bodies and they're still pretty good, but when we actually give them what they need, like it's really incredible.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Speaking of COVID, any important, I know all of us have had probably things that we've learned during this time, but what for you guys has stuck out as is things that you've learned or things that you've realized are really important because of all the challenges of this year. Because I know it's challenging for everyone, but especially having a gym with so much uncertainty there has been difficult too.
For sure.
Take it.
I'll say this. We talked a little bit about our how much our business culture has changed in the last couple of years since we started working with Logan. And one of the big things that changed was we started treating and paying our coaches, our team, like owners. Like as the gym does well, they do well. If the gym suffers, they suffer. And during COVID, that was the best thing. I know it sounds scary, and honestly, like there was some times where like we actually cut membership dues in half one month just to kind of like thank our members for sticking with us and everything. And so we didn't cut our salaries in half. But for the most part, what we saw during that time was our staff just completely buying in and saying, rather than like, oh, this stinks, how are we going to get through this? But we saw every single one of them say like, all right, let's get to work. Like, how do we create so much value in our space that there's no way they would even think about putting their membership on hold? And so we had them, they were literally like driving around from houses like here's a Fit Aid. I know you normally like them at the gym. I thought you might be missing one.
That's amazing.
We have 400 members, and they were like driving all over the city to like see people making 3 videos a day. You were on one of them for us. We did finishers every night where like we got to interview somebody and do game nights and all this stuff. And we saw a buy-in from them in a way that I was just really inspired by. And so it's just the COVID, taking it back to what we learned, to me is, whether it's COVID or some other tough time that is bound to come our way, finding people with buy-in and creating that buy-in is really, really valuable. And we've seen the fruits of it for sure.
And more on the personal level of just not feeling busy. I think a lot of people really enjoyed not having anywhere to go for a while, and there was just some really sweet times just being at a family and having more dinners around our table, which is just with him being gone a lot and the gym taking us out of the home sometimes in the evenings. Like dinner at the table hasn't been something we've been able to do consistently. And so that was kind of my big takeaway, that of something I really enjoyed from it, and like, how do I implement this even when things are bound to pick back up a little bit?
Yeah, I love that. I love how it's forced a lot of people to slow down and just think about, you know, all these things that we think we don't have time for. Suddenly we had time for them and realize how important they are.
Yeah. And they're actually things that are that were like really higher on our priority list if we really think about it, because, you know, they speak to the soul sort of, you know, or they're the most important things that will keep us happy or grateful. And being happy and grateful is, goodness, can get you through a lot. Just having that mindset.
I love that. All right. Well, at the end of the podcast, I always ask 3 questions, the same 3 questions. Okay. So we'll go through those, and you guys could answer however you want, but answer separately if you want. The first one is, what are 3 things that you do on a regular basis that have the biggest positive impact on your health?
You want to go first?
Sure.
I love when you go first. Thank you. It gives me more time to think.
Number 1, my cold tub.
Yeah.
Yes, please tell us about that.
Yeah, out in our garage, I have a deep freezer that I converted into a cold tub. You just basically make it waterproof, and then the water sits at about 34 degrees. And I spend about 4 minutes most mornings, almost every morning in there, and it makes you glad to be alive.
Yeah, I can imagine. So is that like first thing when you wake up, or like?
It's before 9 a.m. usually. Okay. It should be first thing. I just don't quite have the willpower.
Yeah, I'm
still working on that.
That is hard to do. Has it gotten easier with time, or like it's?
It has for sure, but now that it's actually cold outside, it's getting even harder.
And it's hard to wake up.
I'm like kind of cold to begin with.
And did you ease into it? Did you start with like 30 seconds and build up to 4 minutes, or you just went for it?
The first time I did it, I did 2 minutes.
Okay.
But so when we first got it, it takes like a whole day to cool down to temperature, and I felt it the night before with my hand, and it was I knew it was going to 34, and it was at like 45 or something, and I felt it, and I'm from Florida, and like I've never felt water that cold in my life, and it's gonna get a lot colder.
Yeah.
Like I didn't sleep that night. I literally like laid awake dreading the fact that I was gonna submerge myself in this.
Oh, that's funny.
But it's been a really cool thing. There's some physical benefits. You can Google those. I won't go into them. But for me, honestly, the biggest thing is the mental piece.
Yeah.
Seeking something that's really tough, seeking something I don't want to do, and making myself overcome that daily really gives me a good mindset for the rest of the day. So that's number one.
It's amazing. Libby, have you thought about trying it yet?
I've gotten in a few times. I'll just leave it at that.
Literally like 3 times.
I need a lot of encouragement to get
She
it.
compares it to childbirth.
Yeah, I do. The first time, I don't think nobody's ever going to try it if they think that.
Yeah.
Just the very first time, that was like the only other painful thing I could think of to relate it to, but it does get a little easier. I don't think that anymore.
Yeah.
Wow, I love it. Okay, so that's one thing.
3 things. The other thing is I like a good big breakfast. I feel like my breakfast kind of sets the tone for my day as far as eating, and if I can view breakfast as a good fuel opportunity, then that's good. And then I try to do. I don't ROMWOD every single day, but I do stretching every single day. So those are 3 things that I very consistently do on an almost daily basis.
Love it.
Okay, for me, I've been going to bed early. Pretty much I put my kids to bed and then walk across the hall into our bed like 7:30.
I love it.
I'm maybe not asleep that early, but I definitely try to get into bed much earlier than I ever have before. I would say most nights before 8:30. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'm a night owl, so
You're a
it's
night owl.
annoying. I'm like, what am I supposed to do for the next 2 hours?
And then do you wake up early or what do you?
Honestly, I think for like the last 9 months, I've been going to bed early and I still sleep in. And I just think I've been catching up on 5-ish years of having children and just the craziness of that.
Yeah.
So that's something I do, and I really think is helpful for me to kind of just like calm my body down and get good rest and prioritizing that. I stretch my toes often.
Oh.
Yes, I'm
Have
very.
you gotten that one before?
No, this is the first time. I need to hear about this.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in defeat, I guess, is the way to say it. But foot health is really important to me. So making sure that my toes are flexible and have good mobility. I have some feet problems, so it's just been kind of something I've been learning and trying to understand more. And the science is kind of getting there a little bit in like shoes and how they're constructed. So that's really important to me. I try to wear minimalist shoes, and so do my children. So anyway,
That's
toe
amazing.
mobility.
If you have any like links to like videos or things like that, send them to me so I can look them up.
Yeah, people are like, what is she
we
talking
need to see
about?
what this is about.
But everything starts from the ground up, and we use our feet for everything,
So
and
true.
we forget about that. So that's really important to me. And what was my third thing? I kind of put this on like a healthy life. We have a pretty regular date night, whether it's so that's kind of just more and healthy mind and heart and soul, making sure that we stay connected. And so we try to do that. And it's not every week, but it is something consistent, even if it's like a 45-minute date, which we have those sometimes.
We have to go to a Mexican restaurant because they're the only ones that bring the food fast enough for us to get home in time.
Yes. And so those are kind of like my top 3.
Yeah.
I love it. What about one thing that you think would have an impact on your health, but you have not implemented it yet, or something you're working on?
Ooh.
Mine was the cold tub that I was like,
well, you did it 3 times.
I did it 3
That's really
times.
impressive.
I know,
I don't know
but
if I could do it.
consistently is what's really hard for me because I even tell Johnny, I'm like, you don't have to go in there.
Right.
Like I totally was like, don't do it.
Yeah.
So I think it could be really great. I understand the benefits of it.
Yeah.
Mentally, I needed a little bit more time.
Yeah.
We want to get a sauna eventually too. So
It'll be good to have both, and you
Yeah.
can do the
Fire and
contrast,
ice.
especially in the winter. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's true.
I think I'll just stay in the sauna in the winter. I can mentally handle being in the cold maybe in the summer. So that's what I'm telling myself.
Yeah.
Maybe when summer comes around.
would be a good time to start.
I got it in the summer and you didn't use it at all.
I don't think that's. I'm not sure.
I'd say for me, I think there's a lot of connotation when we use the word addiction, but like I think so many of us, myself included, are like actually what I would say addicted to my phone. Like it,
Oh, yeah.
when you literally read what an addiction is, it's like, oh, I have that for my phone.
And that's how it's engineered, right? Like,
right,
Yeah, totally.
right. And so, and I can say that because I know like most of the people listening, if they're honest with themselves, probably too.
We all are.
So I really want to start taking the necessary steps to break that. And for me, I think it's probably like finding a drawer when I'm at home. It just lives in a drawer, and I can, I have my watch if there's an emergency or something like that.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And at least, I know some people I've interviewed before have talked about putting in an airplane mode after like a certain time at night, or at least having some time away, whether it's a short time or whether it's a long time, or whether it's like Sundays, you put your phone away. I think there's a lot of ways to do it, but something that I know I can relate to, I think probably everybody listening, because they're it's just in our lives all the time.
I mean, they're probably listening to this on their
I
phone,
know.
so.
Exactly.
But listen to the rest of this, and then you can go put your phone down.
Then you can put it down. I love it. All right. The last question is, what does a healthy life look like to you?
I would go back to what I said about like just realizing how incredible your body actually is in its natural state. And so a healthy life is giving it what it needs to stay in that state. The fuel, the rest, the exercise, those things to like kind of keep your body as amazing as it actually is.
I love that.
I kind of think about the different parts of our body, like head, heart, and like the physical piece too, and how all those things kind of need to be addressed for that health aspect. Continuing to learn and to grow in our faith is like a big part of health for me and for us, I should say. And having a grateful heart and goodness, are these healthy things? I'm not even sure, but I guess when I think about health, like I think it really is going to start in my heart and going to work outward. I've really enjoyed continuing to learn and move my body well. Just continue to prioritize movement rather than speed.
I love that. And I love how you said it starts in your heart and then works outward, because I think it's so easy to do all the things you think you're supposed to do for your health, like eat a certain way and sleep and do all these latest trends. But like if you're not right in your heart first, you're not probably really healthy. So,
or you might not be happy.
Yeah, or happy. Yeah, right. So maybe like your body may look healthy, but maybe you're not happy or fulfilled.
You can be sad with abs.
Tell that to someone.
I wouldn't know, but I think you could be.
That's funny.
That's great. Well, that's a great note to end on.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. This has been awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Julie.
Hey there, thanks so much for tuning in to this episode. As always, I like to recap my 3 biggest takeaways after the conversation. And here, my first takeaway was definitely about pursuing your passion. I just love how both Jonny and Libby have been able to turn their passions into their work, and how they're also striving to instill these values in their children as well. My second takeaway was about focusing on the next step. I loved how Jonny and Libby talked about this. Rather than getting too far ahead of themselves, they both seem to always be focusing on what's next and trusting God and where He's leading them. So often it's easy to get caught up in where we want to be long term. And at least in my experience, this can sometimes distract us from what's happening in the moment right in front of us and being open to a path that may be different, but even better. So it was really great to hear how by focusing on just what was next, Jonny and Libby have both been able to enjoy and accomplish more than they might have otherwise. And then my third takeaway was about getting out of your comfort zone. I just loved how Jonny talked about using his cold tub as a way of mentally challenging himself every morning. So whether it's a cold tub or something else, I think we can all probably benefit from doing something that makes us uncomfortable. Hope you had some great takeaways from this episode as well.